Alright, I'm going to do some Tactica for Sisters of Battle. We're going to run through each squad in its own video. They're not in any particular order. They should be on my channel with the different squads by name. So I'm going to cover the Retributer Squad. It's a heavy support choice. It's one that you never really saw much of in 5th edition. It wasn't as useful as the Exorcist or the Penitent Engine, but in 6th edition that might have changed, and certainly at low point games I think they're far more effective than the Exorcist or the Penitent Engine because they have more wounds than either, and they can put down more shots than either. And in a low point game, at least, you're probably not going to be facing a large number of heavy vehicles or anything where the Exorcist's missiles are really mandatory, and you can't really put enough Penitent Engines down that they're going to survive. High point game, a really big Retributer Squad can put down a ton of potentially rending shots, but they may not be as competitive as some of the other heavy support in a high point game. They do, however, cost a lot less than the others, so you could put 10 Retributors down without upgrades for essentially the same cost as one Exorcist. So you could get, with 10 girls down, you would get 20 bolt shots within 12 inches and 10 bolt shots out, up to 24 inches, and those bolts are going to be rending 50% of the time. So they're actually pretty useful. I think you'll probably see more of them when you actually see people playing Sisters in 6th edition, so it's a good unit to think about. The benefit to this squad in terms of heavies is that they have rending when their Act of Faith work, and that's going to go off basically 50% of the time as long as you have your Sister Superior alive, and if she's died, they're still going to get their Act of Faith 50% of the time. So, more than half the times you shoot, if not more, you're going to have rending, which means the bolters, which are strength 4 rending, are able to wound anything because of 6 with rending wounds, no matter what your opponent's toughness is, and they'll be AP too. So they are a threat to monstrous creatures or anything regardless of its toughness, but a bolter is only strength 4, so against vehicles, even with rending, it's not that useful. It can certainly take down rhinos and razorbacks and medium to low armor vehicles. Now, this is a weird thing. No matter how big you made the squad, you can only take 4 heavy weapon upgrades. So additional girls, they're going to get bolters. Those bolters are still rending, but they're not going to be able to take, say, 10 girls and get 8 heavy weapon upgrades. So I personally think that the Retributer Squad is best run with just the minimum 4 Retributors and the Superior. So one of the important rules to remember is how it is written that you can use Acts of Faith, and that would be that you can only use them in your shooting phase. So that means that these girls don't get to use them when they're being overwatched. And it means that you're pretty much only going to use them in your shooting phase. You're not going to be able to use them when you're intercepting with say, a quad cannon, because that is at the end of the movement phase and not shooting phase. So you can't use your Act of Faith there. That would mean that that these girls are going to be using Act of Faith only once every turn. So Retributors as a group, they're going to come basic with a bolter. But let's look at what they're really useful for, which is the Retributer Squad is essentially Devastator Squad equivalent, with a few differences between the Sisters and the Space Marines. Obviously, they've got a different weapon layout. They don't get missile launchers, which a Devastator Squad would get. So let's look at their options. Personally, I think the best option for the Retributer Squad by far is the Heavy Bolter. It's the cheapest. It's a 5-point upgrade. You can take 4 of them. So the Heavy Bolter here, this weapon it's got a pretty good range, 36 inches. It's strength 5. It's rending. It allows you to put 3 shots down per person. And even if they move, they're going to snap fire if they move. But even if they move, they can put those shots down range, which means there's a decent chance they can hit. With strength 5 rending, they can technically glance even armor 14. So it's a pretty useful weapon. It's got pretty good range, being that it's 36 inches, and so personally I think it's the best choice for the Retributors. The next option in terms of point values is the Multi-Melta. The Multi-Melta has a pretty good range, 24 inches. It obviously has the Melta rule. The girls could take 4 of them, or you could swap them out in any sort of combination you want point-wise. I personally don't think it's worth taking Multi-Meltas on a Retributer Squad. There's no benefit to their active faith, so you're taking a squad, but you're not getting any benefit from their special ability because a Multi-Melta is already AP 1 and Strength 8, so it's a great weapon for taking out vehicles, but you could put Meltas or Multi-Meltas with your Battle Sisters, and you can get more of them with the Retributer Squad, but I think you're probably better off not doing it. They are heavy weapons, so if you move with them, you're going to snap fire, but you only get 1 snap fire with the Multi-Melta versus 3 on the Heavy Bolter. Then the highest point is the 20-point Heavy Flamer. Now, in terms of fluff, the sisters really like flamers, but personally I think flamers are a very bad choice for Sisters of Battle because sisters are not great at close combat. They do okay, they're better than Imperial Guard, they're better than Tau, they're not as good as Space Marines, they're not as fast as Eldar, so often you don't want to be within flamer range, which means charge range. So the Retributor with the Heavy Flamer does get a rending Heavy Flamer, which is awesome, but it doesn't really help you, in my personal opinion, because you have to be really close to your opponent, and there's no way to get these girls with their Heavy Flamer close to the opponent without sticking them in a vehicle and driving them down the battlefield and then getting out and shooting, which you can do because it's an assault weapon. Or if you're being assaulted, then your Heavy Flamer is useful, but personally I think it's not great. It is rending though, so Strength 5 Heavy Flamer could put a lot of rending wounds on an opponent, but I'm not sure it's worth it. The Sister Superior can take a Storm Bolter. Now she's going to come, let's say this was a Sister Superior with a Storm Bolter, but she could come basic with the Bolter. What's the difference? The Storm Bolter is an assault weapon, and it gets both shots at 24 inches downrange versus 1 shot on the Bolter. I'm not sure point-wise it's really worth taking the Storm Bolter. You do lose 1 shot, and it's going to be rending, and it's worth noting that the girl with the Storm Bolter gets the extra rending shot at 24 inches, but probably point-wise it's not worth it unless you just have the extra points to put into the Sister Superior. She could potentially come with a Plasma Pistol and or a close combat weapon like a Chainsword. I once again would say it's probably not worth it. The Plasma Pistol it's potentially going to get hot. It's AP2 already, so it doesn't benefit from the rending rule in that regard. It does get extra armor penetration, but I would say probably not worth it, and she's likely to kill herself. So other upgrades on the Sister Superior. If this was your basic Sister Superior with her bolt gun, she can take a Melt-A-Bomb for 5 points. That's great if you think your Retributors are going to be assaulted by a monstrous creature, in which case you might be able to use it, or if you're going to assault some sort of vehicle, but that's kind of unlikely. I don't think that the way they're set up, they're not going to move much in the game. You're going to castle them up somewhere, and they're just not likely to use the Melt-A-Bomb. But it's 5 points, so if you are trying to find a place to drop 5 points and you've already put Melt-A-Bombs on your squads that are likely to be in combat, then it's not a bad option. Some of the things that you see in the Sisters Codex is that independent characters that have the Act of Faith rule benefit from the Act of Faith from their squad. That means if this is a Retributer Squad, we've got someone with a Heavy Bolter and a Multi-Melta and a Heavy Flamer here, and the Sister Superior and one girl with a Bolter. So if they're here manning, say, an Aegis line, and there's a quad cannon, you could put an independent character, Uriah, for example, just a straight-up priest, anything like that. If they have the Act of Faith rule, then when the sisters get their Act of Faith and their weapons are rending, the quad cannon is going to be rending. That would apply just for sisters in general. So if you had a Retributer sister, this bolter girl, if she was manning the quad cannon, it would be a rending quad cannon. The benefit to having one of the big HQs is that their ballistic skills are 5 at minimum, which means they pretty much are almost always going to hit with a twin-linked weapon like the quad cannon. So it makes your quad cannon strength 7, AP 2, 50% of the time. With the HQ units in there, since they give a +1 to the active faith, it means that even more likely that you're going to get your active faith off. So that's a great tactical use, is to put your HQ, your warlord, at a low point game, probably with your Retributer Squad, at least early on, and that gives your quad cannon, if you take one, and I suggest you do, it makes it a rending weapon very often. You put St. Celestine and she's manning a quad cannon or an Icarus cannon, she's ballistic skill 7, and the squad will be fearless. If you put the Archconfessor in, they will be fearless, and he's ballistic skill 5, and actually anyone within 6 inches of him is going to be fearless. And if you put Uriah, they're going to be stubborn, not fearless, and Uriah has a ballistic skill of 5. So all 3 of the named HQ choices are pretty good. The Canoness, not so effective, since her active faith really doesn't benefit the squad in any way. She does have a good ballistic skill, so if you're using her to man a quad cannon, that's pretty useful, but otherwise I would skip her for the Retributer Squad. Also, on the topic of HQ choices, sisters do have one Blood Brother unit, that would be, or one Blood Brother Codex, that would be the Imperial Guard, and so you could put Imperial Guard independent characters with the Retributer Squad. I don't really see this happening, but the Lord Commissar could obviously be with them. He doesn't benefit from their active faith. Actually, none of the independent characters are going to benefit from their acts of faith. So they get a little bit Leadership 10 from the Lord Commissar if he's with them. And the Primaris Psyker could obviously be attached to them, though there's something that's kind of heretical about that idea, since sisters abhor the witch, but you could put a Primaris Psyker with them if he was the HQ choice from the Imperial Guard, and he could use his psychic powers, but they're all pretty short range for the most part, so it's really not a good choice in terms of putting an allied HQ choice with them. These girls, though it's unlikely you're ever going to use this, these girls do have the ability to throw rending frag grenades. So one of them, say that they're within assault range, you know you're going to be assaulted by a mob of something, and you want to put the most possible wounds down against it. If your girl that's carrying just a standard bolter throws a frag grenade during the shooting phase, and your active faith has gone off, that strength 3 frag grenade is rending, and if you land it in the right spot, every rending roll of 6 on your wounds, regardless of toughness. So, even if you're going up against a bunch of Terminators, well, their toughness doesn't really matter, but let's say you're going up against several very large monstrous creatures, you could potentially wound them regardless of their toughness, or if you just wanted to put wounds on a horde, and they were close because this group's about to be assaulted, then the frag grenade with the rending is kind of useful. It works on the crack grenade too, but so talk about just a few other upgrades. This, say a Sister Superior, she does get the ability to take a chainsword. There's really no point in doing that because she already has a basic 1 melee attack, and with the 6th edition rules, you have a melee attack regardless of what you're armed with. She carries a pistol, so she's going to get her bonus attack. The chainsword really isn't great. You can take a power weapon with the new FAQ for the Codex. So she could take a power maul, she could take a power axe, but I don't think you want to do that. She could take the combi flamer, melta, or plasma. Also, once again, probably not that useful. The combi flamer isn't going to help you if you're being assaulted. I mean, it puts wounds down with Wall of Death, but you can't use the rending rule on it because assault phase is not when your active faith goes off. She could take the Condemner bolt gun. The Condemner bolt gun sounds really awesome because it does allow you to put an extra unsavable wound on a Psyker. However, you have to hit the Psyker, so unless you're shooting at a psychic monstrous creature, say a Tyrannid, or some sort of Grey Knight. It's not likely that in a lot of units you're going to actually be able to hit the Psyker. She does have the precision shot rule because she's a character, so she could pick the Psyker out, but the Condemner Bolt Gun only gets one shot, so it's probably not worth 15 points. It's the most expensive upgrade, and for the superior, and it's probably a useless upgrade. Just run through a few other general rules for the squad. They can take a transport, but their transport isn't part of the unit, so as I see the rules, the weapon on the transport doesn't benefit from the active faith because the Retributors are not shooting it. They have Shield of Faith, which all Sisters do. Matter of fact, everything in the Sisters Codex has Shield of Faith. It's a 6-up in-ball save. It does protect them some, but it's got limitations. It's a 6+. It can't be removed from things that remove, say, items, because it's not war gear. So the Vindicator Assassin, for example, cannot remove their 6-up in-ball save. Not that he probably would. A few other things to consider. Retributors are now going to be scoring units in 1/6 of the games. Big Guns Never Tire, they're going to be a scoring unit, which means they will benefit from objectives. That means in that game, and Big Guns Never Tire, if you can put this squad near an objective or two objectives at the beginning of the game, when you identify them, if one of them is, say, a targeting array, which lets you reroll ones, it makes this squad essentially half as good as Twin Linked, since they hit on 3s up. So if you can put them near objectives and Big Guns Never Tire, that's pretty useful. There's a decent chance that you can benefit. You might get Skyfire, which would also let the squad take down flyers. And since they're rending when they shoot, a lot of the times they're going to be able to really take down flyers with high likelihood. A few other things to think about. They do have a 3-up armor save, so unless you're going against high AP weapons, you could put them out in the open. I would personally suggest you stick them in a building high up so that you have as much field of view of the battlefield as possible, or stick them behind an Aegis line somewhere so they get a benefit from the 4-up cover save from the Aegis, and